Okay, cool. So we are on live stream, and let's start. Hi guys, this is Chris from DoraHacks. Welcome everyone to join this roundtable discussion about Boundless Hackathon. So a little bit intro about like Boundless Hackathon first. It is a virtual hackathon that co-hosted by Stanford Blockchain Accelerator, Nautilus Chain, ZBack, and Roots Labs. Projects building on all chains can apply for this hackathon, and participants can choose from a wide range of the exciting tracks, including DeFi, gaming, NFT, and infra, and others, and can collaborate with other like-minded individuals to bring their visions to life using the latest shared security infra right now. With the cutting edge tools and resources, attendees can push the limits of what's possible and impact the future of blockchain industries. And today, this is going to be a roundtable open discussion panel. And we are very happy and honored to have a couple speakers from the co-host of this hackathon. There's Steve Chen, which is head of blockchain of Nautilus Chain. Nell, which is the CEO of Eclipse. Chris, which is the CEO of PostSwap, and also Sam, who is not be able to join at the moment, but he is the CEO of ZBack, and hopefully he can join later for this panel discussion. Yeah, so let's right now jump right into the main topic for this panel discussion. We have prepared some questions for each of the speaker, and so why don't we start from the very first questions? So I guess the very first question is for Chris, which is CEO of PostSwap. So we all know that Nautilus chain right now it's a layer 3, and layer 3 is a relatively new topic. So why did you choose to deploy on the Nautilus chain, and which features are most attractive to you to build on top of it?
Yeah, sure. And hi, everybody, and thanks for having me.
Hi, Chris. Can you hear me? Hello, Chris. Can you hear me? Seems like he has some connection situations. Yeah, let's just wait for a couple minutes, 1 minute, to see if he can join back. And if not, we can skip to the next questions. Hi, Chris. Welcome back.
Yeah, sorry about that. My app doesn't let me switch over to my other document, so I'll just kind of freestyle it. To answer your question, PostSwap, the reason that we're building on ZBack chain is primarily for the speed and affordability that it offers, and the modularity of being able to roll out with the ZK rollups as quickly as possible. So I know a lot of people know a little bit about optimistic rollups and the ZK rollups that are becoming pretty popular these days. ZK is getting better and better, but it still quite isn't at the efficiency that we need for exchange. It's three that will enable us, when ZK rollups are ready, just to quickly roll it out. And it has also been very helpful for us to connect to other projects by implementing all the work that they're doing on their different chains and connecting them to PostSwap as well. So that's the main reason that we've been working with ZBack and Nautilus. And then we really want to get into the trading of real world assets that will be possible. Privacy, and we could be a little bit more compliant as well in the future.
Got it. Got it. I think your network is a little bit unstable, but we definitely get most of the part that you just mentioned. So I guess uh, I forgot to mention this part. But Chris, would you mind to introduce a little bit more about yourself and also more about the Posted Swap project itself, so that like everyone who is watching this live stream can have a like general idea about it.
Yeah, sure. A little about me. I've been in this space trading for over a decade now. To give you an idea of how long that is, I bought my first few Bitcoin around $300 and I bought XRP at 2 cents long ago. So I've gone up and down with many of these bull runs, over three so far. And recently, over the past year and a half, almost 2 years now, I've become more of a builder as well. I was even working on a play to earn project in the past last year, but I realized, especially during this bear market, that DeFi is definitely the place to be, and excited to be building in this bear market because that's the time to build and be prepared for the bull run. And Posey Swap. So Posey Swap is going to be the official, it's a semi-official now DEX essentially of Nautilus chain, similar to how Uniswap is for Ethereum or Pancake Swap for Binance. That's what Posey Swap is going to be for the Nautilus chain and then Zebic chain when it rolls out. So we're very similar to a lot of the other swaps that people know of already. You can stake liquidity, stake tokens, and earn yield off of providing that liquidity. We're following a very similar tokenomic structure to the Curve pools and structuring it that way for the governance as well. So the longer people stake, the more share they will have in those POS mining rewards from either LP staking or POS staking, and they'll give have more rights in the governance voting features as well. So it's very similar to a lot of DEXs people know, but we're trying some innovative techniques, as well as bringing NFTs to the space where we're having our NFT launch at the same time as our token launch. And that's just to make it a little more fun because people know that, you can stake tokens and earn more tokens back, but through NFTs, it's like a gamified stake. I can purchase these NFTs at a little bit of a risk of how much, although all will earn some yield, some more than others. And how was my internet? You catch all that?
We lost like for 3-4 seconds in the end, but we get most of the part. You mentioned you trying to launch the NFT with token at the same time, and what's the next?
Yeah. So our token's launching early next month, and at the same time, people will be able to purchase these NFTs with the tokens, and they'll be able to earn. It's kind of a random mystery treasure box on what they get inside, but all the NFTs will earn yield. Very similar to if they had just staked those tokens. Essentially, they can buy an NFT.
Got it. Okay, that's make a lot of sense. Cool. I think due to the internet unstable, we don't need to make Chris more struggle. So let's jump to the next questions. I guess this questions is for Neil from Eclipse. So the question is layer 3 the key driver for the future development of public chains? And in the long run, what kind of relationship and connection will layer 3 maintain with layer 1 and layer 2? So Neil, I guess same routine before you answer these questions. You can briefly introduce yourself, briefly introduce about Eclipse, basically to give a general picture about what you guys are trying to build, and you can answer the questions.
Yeah, sure. So I think there's a bit of an echo. Okay. So I'm Neil, founder of Eclipse. And what we basically built is Cosmos for rollups, where you can deploy your own app-specific rollup or customize layer 3. The word layer 3 is a little bit overloaded because people will dispute the use of that term, and sometimes it has a very specific definition. But we're just using it for illustrative purposes. So the Nautilus chain or the Zebic chain is built using Eclipse, and it's an example of an Eclipse chain. As far as like whether all apps will be on layer 3s or what's the future of that, in general, a lot of apps don't need to be on their own chain, or they don't necessarily need that level of customization. And we've seen apps that have great PMF even on the Ethereum L1. But a lot of the apps that we're going to start seeing this next wave, especially really cutting edge consumer apps, high throughput DeFi applications, semi like quasi decentralized exchanges, such as you can imagine a world where FTX actually held some of the assets or all of the assets in some non-custodial way, and it was all held on some blockchain where it was able to straddle the border between a fully centralized exchange and a decentralized environment like Ethereum. So seeing kinds of applications like that requires a lot of the time customizations. That's what we're hoping to provide with Eclipse. We're doing a lot of that with games. We have fully on-chain games and games that are implementing VRFs or other types of customizations with their block time, with the token for gas. We have a physical infrastructure networks such as React, which is a decentralized battery network. IoTex, it's like one of the biggest DePIN networks. So these folks often need to build in custom precompiles or custom operations that could only be possible if they had their own chain. And then we have a whole new category of applications, such as what Zabbix is pioneering, which is basically in DeFi, payments, real world assets. And a lot of the features there are regulatory, or they have other types of precompiles or restrictions on the chain. So we have Sam from Zabbix who just joined us right now. And Sam's been familiar with Eclipse since the earliest days. So he's played a role in the types of customizations that we offer.
Got it. Yeah. And speaking of back to the questions, do you think Layer 3 will be the key driver of the future development of public blockchains? And what do you think is the like relationship and connection with Layer 3 maintain with Layer 1 or Layer 2 in the future?
Yeah, the relationship between layer 3s and the other types of chains, and I try not to use the word layer 3 at all, to be honest, but the relationship between these bespoke execution layers and other blockchains, such as layer 1s or other rollups, is that for layer 1s, rollups in general need them. Where the layer 1 is the part that provides the security and consensus. So when you produce a block of transactions on an execution layer, you post that to a layer 1. That could be Celestia, it could be Ethereum, could be somewhere else, but there is almost always a layer 1 involved for a rollup. There are cases where you'd post the data to some centralized data availability solution, but those are typically temporary solutions. And eventually, even chains like that plan to move to these decentralized options. As far as the relationship between app-specific rollups versus traditional rollups, that's a little bit closer to just like direct competition. Applications will either be on their own chain or they will deploy to shared chains. But there's not much reason for them to do both of those things. So it's a difference between like using a one-size-fits-all solution versus something that's highly customized, probably costs more, but in many cases it's necessary, especially if you want to really take your applications to the next level.
Got it. And speak like and additional questions on this. So I think so. Like why? Like what is the edge for Eclipse when a project trying to choose infra compare with the Cosmos SDK directly? Like what type of the advantage?
Yeah, so Cosmos is a layer 1. That's the big difference. And a layer 1 blockchain is, first of all, very expensive to bootstrap. You need to bootstrap security for the chain. Otherwise, it's not very secure. So in a proof of stake blockchain, there's some amount of stake that's actually put up for the blockchain. Or proof of work, you have to have computers that actually run the network. So that's the first part that makes it very expensive. You have to bootstrap network effects. You have to get liquidity on your chain. Whereas if you're a rollup, you're typically adjacent to some existing ecosystem where you can share that liquidity. You have to bootstrap validators. So you actually need to upgrade those validators' nodes or their software whenever you do an upgrade to your chain. You have to get indexers and bridges, all the surrounding infrastructure. So these are the issues that Cosmos SDK chains have in general, or layer 1 blockchains such as Polkadot. Is these parachains are essentially layer 1s. Or if you look at Polygon supernets. So that's the de facto standard right now. If you want your own customizations, you have to use a layer 1. But the problem is that these layer 1s are highly fragmented. And as we saw in the last however many months, a lot of the TVL floated out of these layer 1 blockchains when like in a down market. So that's the advantage of rollups, which is that because you're adjacent to an existing ecosystem, a lot of the time that money can stay, the activity stays, and hopefully your app is so bespoke and so customized for the architecture that it's deployed to that there's some stickiness too for the developers.
Got it. Cool. That makes sense. Thank you, Neil, for the answers. Let's jump to the next questions. Will future large-scale phenomenal level applications or ecosystem communities be primarily built on layer 3? I guess Neil just tackle a little bit on this, but would love to hear other speakers' opinion on this as well. Maybe Sam, you want to?
Yeah, I think the idea, like as Neil says, like, I don't like to call it layer 3 as well. It's, bespoke execution layer, right? And the idea here is like Zebek started as a payments application on Solana, right? And we were really successful to attract a lot of people. And we realized that if you are just paying people and receiving salaries, you don't need a lot of things that these public blockchain allows you to have. But in the same time, you need a bespoke environment so that your community is able to use, right? So that's the example of large scale phenomenon level application is happening right now, right? All the applications that are being built on Eclipse right now is the example of that, right? And the way you have to compare Eclipse to, you can think of Eclipse as Cosmos last year, right? Like a year ago, Cosmos was not that much of a big deal, but now more and more people is excited about it. So that's kind of how we think about this, is like large scale application is happening right now. And we can see that from the number of transactions happening on our testnet, right? We in little over 2 months, we have over 40 million transactions on our testnet, which if you compare to like companies that have raised billions at a multi-billion-dollar valuation like Sui, right? We're still at a comparable number. We have over 600,000 unique wallet participating in our testnet. And not just that, within our Zebek ecosystem as well, more and more companies are coming, trying to be part of it. And just within Nautilus, we have over 65 applications who wants to be our day one launch partners, right? And if you compare this to Solana, the Solana 2020, we are far ahead of that number. You can compare this number to applications or layer 1 blockchain that was from 2017 or 2019. We are far ahead in that number. So I would like to believe that the large scale phenomenon is happening right now, and I think in next 12 to 18 months you will see myriads of these bespoke execution layer that are built on top of Eclipse, like Nautilus, happening left and right.
Got it. Thank you very much, Sam, for this answer. And like the 65 project that wants to be with Nautilus chain from day one is definitely a very exciting number. Speaking of this, I guess like which current untenable Web3 scenarios hold promise for implementation on layer 3 chains or app specific chains in the near future that you think will maybe like drive to a very huge success in the next round?
Can you repeat the question for some reason?
Okay. Yeah. So I guess the question is, which current unattainable Web2 scenarios hold promise for implementation on layer 3 chains or app chains in the near future, do you think?
One of the examples that I would like to give that is being built on Nautilus right now is there are companies, right, that they specialize on what I call it like very, very like small scale gig economy, right? Example of this will be labeling of data, right? There are companies in Web2 that are worth tens of billions of dollars where people will label like 10 hour a day data, and they are paid like $6, $8 a day, right? And these labelers are based out of Colombia and most of the third world countries, right? And these people who are earning few bucks a day are not receiving their pay for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Sometimes they're not getting their pay for 4 weeks, right? Now, first time ever, because of this bespoke execution layer in Nautilus, now people will be able to label data. And the moment their labeled data is verified, they will be getting their pay right there in that second, right? Which was just impossible with with traditional traditional payment method, because in a normal day, a billion different data is labeled, right? And billion times like running Visa network or MasterCard network will cost like $30 million. And the same thing can be done on a Nautilus powered by Eclipse for like less than $300, right? And that level of impact was never seen before, right? When a qualified person gets their pay faster, it makes more people excited about work, right? So I think what we will be enabling with this is democratization of work and payments, right? Which a lot of layer one blockchain this does not allow, because a lot of these application needs like specialized environment, which we are building right now.
Got it. Yeah, that's definitely make a lot of sense. Cool. So I think let's jump to the next questions. And this question is actually for Steve. Like as the like head of the blockchain of Nautilus chain, do you think in the future, like app-specific chains, particularly modular layer 3 platform or app chains like Nautilus chains, can become a very normal situation? Steve, you're muted.
Yeah, sorry, I was on mute. Yeah, thanks for inviting me again. Nautilus chain is actually exactly built for what the previous question was addressing. So as we enter into large scale, web scale dApp applications, right? We need infrastructure that supports this kind of the next billion users, and the Nautilus chain is designed. One of the examples, a prime example of a application or a sector specific chain designed for web scale adoption. So what do I mean by that? Is the current layer 1 blockchains, they're too costly, and the transaction speed, the throughput does not really support large scale adoption. But so there are layer 2 solutions that try to address those problems, which is great. But for a real web scale Web3 company like Zebek, it has special needs like the streaming micropayments. That is something that is very useful. It's never been done before, but it has its own special requirements. So therefore, as we go deep into the application layer, different applications would have different requirements. So therefore, it's natural for people to actually think about modifying the VM, modifying the transaction process to fit their needs. As Neil was mentioning, launching a new chain from the ground up is very costly. So you're dealing with the cold start problem. So coming back to the question, you might be asking, why don't Web3 companies launch a new layer 1? Well, launching a new layer 1 is very, very costly, especially you're essentially going from 0 to 1, right? So that could take a lot of time and effort and community building. That I think is the biggest hurdle for launching a new layer 1 Web3 type of a blockchain. But with a modular design, which Nautilus is adopting, what we could, so the best, the most, to me, the most beneficial point here is that we could leverage existing layer 1. So as Neil was saying, that the data availability layer could be Ethereum, could be Celestia, or even could be some other chain. But the community is already there, right? The miners are there. The people who are staking, securing the layer 0 chain is already there. So we basically on day one could leverage the security and the community of the existing layer 0 blockchain. So instead of going from 0 to 1, we basically start from 10. right? We go from 10 to 100 to a million. That's much easier than going from 0 to 1. So I think that's a long answer to your short question, but I think you're going to see more and more application and bespoke blockchains. And the best way, I believe, to do it is to do a modular type of blockchain.
And one additional questions based on your answers. So, like, what do you think? Like, when do you think a team who is building a dApp should choose to become a dApp chain like you guys self? And like, what type of the teams is actually not a good candidate to become a chain themselves?
Yes. So this is a very good question. So it follows my previous answer, right? So if dApp chains or application specific chains are good, as I was saying in the previous answer, then why shouldn't all projects build their own chain? So you have to. So there are several factors you have to consider. One is I think one is the skill level. Like if you are a protocol doing on the application level a layer, like you have in your team, you have Solidity developers, front end UI developers, then and also the size of your app, you can do an estimate. If it's not web scale huge number of transactions, then it's not worth it to invest money into building a new blockchain. So for example, the analogy would be if I were to build an Android app, I would be focused on building the app and not building some Android version of operating system. So that's how I would think about it. So but then if you have a big vision and also the market supports building your own layer 3 application, and you have the skill to do it, then I think that actually that makes more sense. So it's based on your vision and also the skill set of the team, and also the requirements. So I would recommend teams to actually start thinking about their app first. If it's a protocol and application focused project, their energy and the resource should be better spent on the application experience first. Now, if they find that existing chains can support that kind of optimum experience, then they probably should start thinking about building a layer 3 blockchain. And working with companies like Nautilus and Eclipse would be a good option because we have the framework set up. So even when you want to build your own chain, you don't need to start from scratch. You can find partners to work with.
Cool. Thank you very much, Steve, for all of the answers. Definitely make a lot of sense. I guess I will have open questions that for everyone. So we all know the benefits of building a dApp specific chain that leverage infra like Eclipse. And what do you think for now is the most challenging stuff for a team to build basically to spin up their own dApp chains? Like based on my very little understanding about it, one of the problem that being talked most is about the composabilities. Basically, if you are a DeFi project, you spin up your own chains, you will lose the composabilities like those DeFi projects in one chains. So we'd love to know some insights from you guys.
Yeah, that's a great question in terms of composability. I think the first question that I usually like to ask when someone asks about composability is what they want to compose with. And a lot of the time, applications actually have fairly limited composability needs. Despite that being one of the original propositions around crypto, it's a lot like MEV in non-Ethereum ecosystems, which means that it's something that people talk a lot about, but it actually has very minimal impact. So that's the first thing. But second, when they express what they want to compose with, they want to compose with DEXs, for example. There are DEXs on the Nautilus chain itself. And we also have these like integrations with Catalyst, for example, which is an AMM, which is designed to be plug and play for different rollups. So this is a shared liquidity pool, which people can tap into. And a DEX is typically the next thing that people will mention that they want to integrate with. As far as integrating with just like arbitrary apps, like one of the games in Eclipse called Worlds, they have their own chain. They needed to use the third web contracts. We just deployed the third web contracts to the Worlds chain as well. And now they get all that functionality right there. And then in the worst case, if there's no other solution, then there's always bridges. There's shared sequencers that can provide atomic composability between Eclipse chains or between other rollups. And that's the fallback. But a lot of the time, you don't even have to get to that point.
Great. Thank you, Neil. Steve, Sam, any insights that you guys want to share here about it?
Yeah, I think just adding on to Neil's point, right? I think the idea of composability is built on the traditional, traditional like monolithic blockchain strategy of basically tiering TVL on top of each other and double count, right? And it works really well on those type of ecosystem, right? Where basically like LP token of an AMM is used on DEX, and that the LP token of a DEX is used on a yield aggregator, and all of a sudden $100 million of TVL becomes $500 million. And we saw that really well in blockchains like Solana, where TVL ballooned up to $18 billion. Well, true TVL was like less than $1 billion, right? So that's when it becomes really interesting with modular blockchain, is because you are not in the mission of like double counting TVL. You build modular, like, your app specific, like super bespoke execution layer because you want something accomplished, right? For us, it was thousands of these payroll customers where we wanted to have a stable chain where they were able to do specific things, right? The developers of the world came on Eclipse. Probably they're not looking to double count TVL. They're not trying to use the LP token from a DEX to do ABCD, right? So I think it's actually a lot of these modular blockchains, they don't need composability. A lot of time they don't. It's just a tried and tested method of increasing this imaginary metrics to overvalue themselves, right? And I think market has evolved out of that. And that's what we need to start to think about. We should start to think about truly what it has accomplished, right? In terms of number of user features, then a lot of these traditional metrics, just to be able to boost up the hype from the market and able to sell this imaginary story to the retail token holders to be able to cash out on tokens, which we have seen happening hundreds of times in a lot of monolithic blockchains out there.
Got it. Yeah. Thanks, Sam. Steve, please go ahead.
Yeah. So I just want to add to both Sam and Neil. So if we take the mobile app as an example, I know it's kind of not, very, people might think it's not very pertinent, but it's a big ecosystem, right? So I think the first thing developers should always focus on is user experience. If the underlying layer 0 does not support your scale of users, right, the number of users, and it causes the app to be slow, and it may not even be possible to support your special feature like streaming payments every second, then that is the top concern. You should address that first. And then, in terms of the composability with other applications, that is kind of, analogous to the APIs in the traditional app world. There could be ways to connect, but the APIs don't make or break the app. It's actually, you have to design the features and all the useful experiences. That's gonna make your Web3 application more successful. And once you become successful, there are always ways to connect to other dApps, like Neil was mentioning, even bridges, even those kind of methods. So I think from a application developer point of view, I think the overwhelming focus should be put on the speed of execution, the responsiveness of the app, and nobody wants to sit there and wait for 10 minutes for something to happen, right? That's going to kill the experience. So if that makes sense, then just do the modular blockchain and for your specific app. And then once you grow to a huge, sizable ecosystem, then there are always ways to interconnect with other applications. Yeah, that's how I would, as a developer, to prioritize the concerns.
Got it. Yeah, great. Thank you very much, Steve, and also Neil and Sam for your guys' answers. I think that's pretty much covered all of the questions and topics that we want to propose in this roundtable panel discussion. I also see one of the questions. Pretty much, I think this audience is a little bit confused about like the relationship between like Nala's Eclipse and ZBack. So if you guys want to give like another background intro, yeah.
Yeah, I think I can give that, right. So basically, Zebek was a very decent, successful application in Solana, and it was growing rapidly, right? And we were limited by a lot of things that was happening there. That's when we thought that for an application like ours, where we were like disbursing payments for hundreds of thousands of people, right? And in fact, our Web2 strategy right now, we are processing $300 million annual pay for 30,000 people, right? And by end of the year, we're in line to process payroll for 60+ thousands of people. And we needed a bespoke environment, right? We have known Neil for the longest time, right? We trust his vision. We love his vision, right? And we know that this is how, apps of the future will look like, where applications will focus on attracting user, creating a safe environment for the users to be able to set transaction or set feature, right? That's when Zebek worked with its community to launch Nautilus Chain, built and powered completely by Eclipse team. And Neil probably has even better way of saying this.
Yeah, thanks for the summary, Sam. That's really accurate. And then basically, Eclipse provides rollup as a service, so you can deploy your own rollup with Eclipse. Sam has a great use case with his company Zabbik, and as a result, they deployed Nautilus Chain, which is an example of an Eclipse chain.
Yeah, hope that answered your questions, Aru. But yeah, I think if there's no more questions, we can pretty much wrap up here. Definitely appreciate Chris, Sam, Neil, and Steve, you guys' time to join us to give a panel discussion about the whole picture, some very insightful information about the app-specific chains, modular chains, roll-up as a services. And I believe everyone who is watching this panel discussion can get a lot from what you guys just talked. So like for all of the audience and developers who are interested in this hackathon, like I mentioned at the very beginning, this hackathon is co-hosted by Stanford blockchain accelerators, Eclipse, ZBack, and Knowledge Chains together with a 50,000 prize pool. And no matter where you came from, you are very welcome to join the hackathon. And there are a couple of very cool tracks, like including DeFi, NFT, etc., for you guys to join and compete for the final prizes. So if you are trying to build something really cool to tackle these areas, definitely don't hesitate to join and seize this chance. And I believe you will get definitely more than only prize pool cash from this hackathon. So the hackathon registration have actually already kicked off on May 16th. And right now, you can actually submit a project through DoraHacks platform. There are actually already 11 project submissions, and the submission channel will close on June 18th. So before that, you definitely want to finish your project submissions and include all of the essential essential requirements, including a GitHub and a couple other requirements for the hackathon. And if you will be in the Bay Area in July 1st, there will be a closing ceremony at Stanford University. So feel free to join there if you are free. Other than that, I think that's pretty much everything that we want to cover for this panel discussion. Appreciate all of the panel speakers' time to join us again, and also appreciate all of the audience to join us. And I would definitely hope to see you guys very soon in the hackathon. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's it. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Neil. And also
Thank you.
Chris.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Cool. And I hope you guys have a good night.